Hi and welcome to another video update from the Fire Brigades Union here in the Union's head office in London. Now back in Victorian days, firefighters used to wear these brass fire helmets. They also had to live and work in fire stations for very long periods of time. Now you'd have thought these practices would have gone out with chimney boys, but not in Cambridgeshire. We're here today to discuss a system called Day Crewing Plus, which Cambridgeshire Fire Rescue Service are trying to introduce. The Union says it's a Victorian duty system, and we've got Cameron Matthews, the Brigade Secretary, and Riccardo Torre, who's the Regional Secretary for the Union. Cameron, is this a Victorian duty system, and if so, what does it consist of?
Undoubtedly this is a Victorian system. It's a return to horse-drawn carriages, as you say, chimney sweeps, and a time when firefighters used to have to live and work on fire stations. It consists of 96 hours a week, which is the doubling of the working week for frontline firefighters, which is utterly unacceptable in a modern fire and rescue service.
Well, if it's 96 hours a week, is that actually living and working on the fire station?
That's right, Sam. Shocking as it is living and working on the fire station for 96 hours a week, just like they did in the Victorian era.
Now, the normal working week for a firefighter, those whole-time firefighters that we're watching this, is 42 hours a week, and we get paid an hourly rate for that. Does this now mean that Cambridgeshire firefighters are in double the pay?
Scandalously no. That's what you would expect as a common sense approach. What's happening is the pay that firefighters will get will only increase by 27% despite their doubling the hours. The impact this has, of course, is that firefighters will only get £8.29 per hour rather than a full hourly wage of a firefighter. And quite frankly, this is quite scandalous given that the Chief Fire Officer of Cambridgeshire has been known to have one of the highest salaries in the country, and now he's planning to pay his firefighters one of the lowest hourly salaries in the country. Shocking stuff.
Well, Riccardo, you're the Regional Secretary that covers Cambridgeshire. Now, we've heard there a bit about the pay and conditions of firefighters, but this really is a step back in time, and surely it has to impact on something far more fundamental, and that's the safety of firefighters and the public. Does it, and if so, how?
It absolutely does impact on safety. 96 hours is a ridiculous amount of time to ask anybody to work in any industry, let alone ours. With the emergencies that we respond to, the machinery that we operate, the rescues that we make. Firefighters at the end of the day are still human beings and they need their rest. There is no resilience built into this shift system, so they simply will not get that rest. That makes it unsafe for our firefighters, it makes it unsafe for the Cambridgeshire public. Now this would be dangerous at any time for Cambridgeshire FRS to propose this shift system. But we're in an unfortunate situation right now where Cambridgeshire has the highest home fire fatality rate in England. Now the answer to that isn't to double the working week of firefighters and work them to fatigue.
Now, as you would expect, there are regulations that govern all this, and those are regulations that are in place to protect the public. It covers working times in terms of lorry drivers, doctors, and of course firefighters as well. The Health and Safety Executive has taken a point of view on such duty systems, and this is what they said in a letter to the Union. It is our opinion that these shift systems are in breach of Regulation 6 of the Working Time Regulations. This opinion has been reached in consultation with solicitors from the Government Legal Department. We now call on all parties, and that's the Chief Fire Officers Association and the Fire Brigades Union, to bring about and be involved in finding a sustainable solution. So that's the point of view from the Health and Safety Executive. Also, the Union has taken legal action against the Brigade that's proposed this previously. Let's hear from our Assistant General Secretary, Andy Dark, in regard to that.
Well, the legal case in South Yorkshire was really important for the Union, is that for some time there have been negotiations between the local union representatives and the employer, South Yorkshire Fire and Rescue, on application, if you like, by the Fire and Rescue Service to introduce this duty system. The employer chose to ignore the fact that the union was not agreeing to this duty system, which was totally outside of the Grey Book. We had taken the issue to the Technical Advisory Panel, which adjudicates where there are disagreements on duty shift systems to see whether they are, for example, compliant with the flexible working arrangements which employees need to have, and most importantly of all of the categories and criteria that the TAP looks at is the issue about whether or not it meets the matches the working time regulations and what the working time regulations require of a duty system. The TAP was very clear, in fact management were very clear from the outset, it doesn't meet the working time regulations. So we had a situation whereby an employer openly accepts that it is breaking the working time regulations, which come out of the Working Time Directive from Europe, which is health and safety legislation. We won the legal case because we were forced to take it there because the employer introduced it by using volunteers. Now, we understand why volunteers would say, well, I need more money, where the money is pensionable, that they want to increase their pension. We understand that. But as a union, clearly what we have to do is to maintain and protect the employee, our members. So the legal case was important because certainly in the case of South Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service, they were ignoring the fact that our members' safety was being compromised and the working time regulations were being abrogated. It was extremely important because the judge looked at the whole of the issue. He looked at the fact, well, is it better for the public to have a duty system such as this? Looked at it in terms of the needs of the Fire and Rescue Service, took into account the reasons why the Fire and Rescue Service was saying they needed to do it. Having taken all those factors into account, came up with an extremely categorical and quite long summary as to why on many grounds, in fact all grounds that he cited, is that the duty system was not appropriate and was in essence unlawful. I've got to say, for the Fire and Rescue Service and therefore for the public, it's equally important that ruling was made. If we were to see this kind of duty system expand, is that it would decimate the number of firefighters available to the Fire and Rescue Service and therefore to the public. That affects national resilience, the security of the people of this country. It's extremely important that we maintain and increase the number of firefighters that are available for the public at time of need. Unfortunately, we've seen a massive cut in the number of firefighters. I think the figures are something like 9,600 since 2010. We imagine that we're going to see further cuts. If this duty system was brought in, it would massively reduce at one stroke the number of firefighters in the UK. That is public security at risk, and for that reason the legal case on a separate ground was extremely important. I think for our members in Cambridgeshire is that they are going to come under an amount of pressure from the employer, who will say that it's necessary to do it, there is no alternative. I think our members can be reassured that the union's case has been taken, as I say, to a court, has been found to be absolutely correct. The employer's case, South Yorkshire, but as could be Cambridgeshire, has been found and will be found to be wrong and inaccurate. So I think that should give, as I say, a large deal of confidence to our members in Cambridgeshire that they don't have to go along with this request.
Assistant General Secretary Andy Dark. Now, Riccardo, we've heard these systems in our view are unlawful, unsafe and undermine the pay conditions of firefighters. But of course the Fire and Rescue Service is overseen by politicians on the Fire Authority. If you've got a message to them, what is it?
My message to the politicians of Cambridgeshire would be that they abandon these plans immediately, in the same way that fire authorities all across the United Kingdom have done. When we listen to what the Assistant General Secretary has just said there, they're not only putting our firefighters at risk, they're not only putting our communities at risk, they're potentially putting Cambridgeshire Fire and Rescue Service as an organisation at risk in the light of what we've heard from the tribunal rulings and the HSE, just to name a few. So I'd ask them to get around the negotiating table, talk to the local officials and find one of the many agreeable ways out of this that is fair and suitable for the 21st century.
Well, that's a message to the politicians, but let's talk about the firefighters, Cameron. The firefighters in Cambridgeshire who potentially face having to work this system, getting dragged back to the Victorian age. What would be your message to them about the union's campaign?
Well, day crewing plus is quite clearly a step too far. We'd recommend that they stand by the Fire Brigades Union on this issue, and we will fight and campaign against this unsafe system. What we need to do is make sure that our firefighters aren't browbeaten into volunteering for the system, so that we can negotiate an appropriate and proper shift system that is based on a modern fire and rescue service and is suitable and fit for frontline firefighting in 2016.
Cameron, Riccardo, thanks very much. For further updates, please follow us on our website, and that's www.fbu.org.uk, or you can also follow us on Twitter, and the address for that is @FBU National. But until next time, thanks very much.